Carried. Okay, so I'm going to start out. The first item is the board president's report. First of all, I'm going to say welcome to everybody. This is a very exciting night. It's the beginning of the real process for the search for a new superintendent, so I'm very happy to be here. The second thing I just wanted to let you know, the reason we're in this particular room, the 2020 room, is that our normal meeting room was booked for special ed, what is it called? Special ed settlements with the judge all week. And so we had to kind of scramble, and I want to thank David and Jeannie for finding us a space. And here we are. And if you went over there, you'd see that nobody is in there, but that's because they settled yesterday. But it was too late for us to change the date or the location legally, so we had to stay here. So I just wanted to explain all that, because if you went over, you're like, well, nobody's in there. What happened to them? That's why. The second thing is Bob Walters is not here this evening. You may know he's the Chief Executive Director of the Joseph Campbell Foundation, and so he's back in New York working his real job right now. But he did send me his notes for this evening to share, and I will gladly do that. I was very honored after 7 years. He said I have free reign with his notes. I'm like, okay, this is good. Okay, so that's it for the president's report for tonight. Other than as you can see, we don't have microphones, so we're going to have to speak up. We do have one mic that will be used for public comment, and then we'll move it over in case we need it up here. But that's why that's going on. So this is the time in the agenda where we have opportunities to address the board, and since this is a special meeting versus a regular business meeting, those comments are for items that are on the agenda. In a normal business meeting, public comment are things that are not on the agenda. So that's the subtle difference in this. And I'm going to start by just clarifying. So that means that the comments from public are to be on the new superintendent search process, which is what we're here for. The two things that are on the agenda are the process itself, such as timelines, stakeholder groups, that kind of thing. The second thing is the board members will be brainstorming the 3 questions which will be posed. And other focus and community groups will be answering those questions at a future date all over the place. And that's part of what we'll be talking about. But for tonight, it is the initial process is for the board members. So at this time, if there's any public comment. Good evening, Joe.
Thank you very much, Board President McCauley. I'm glad I came tonight. I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Goldstone. And honestly, I come here more reassured than I have in a long, long time. At least I see someone who was willing to listen, which is a little more than I can say that we've experienced over the road, I hear. A lot of us parents have a lot of concern, and we come here, you know, December 17th, you got a serious complaint, charge from a parent, and you met without any previous meeting about what to do about it. And that didn't sound to me like listening. You made an investigation January 13th, and you concluded it without ever interviewing the victim. Now this gets to listening, Mrs. McCauley. And I think, you know, a lot of people came here and at the meeting said, why rush and pick a new superintendent? Frankly, a lot of us aren't happy with this board. This board picked Dr. Kimbrell. This board is now rushing to select another one. And an interim really might have been a very, very good idea. So here we are, you know, their group had someone from New Tech that had been associated with it. They have removed that person. That is a good step. But we've got, boy, you know, a lot of conflict of interest that has taken place with search committees. And a lot of us feel that, quite frankly, we should have a lemon law on the last one. I really think it would be better to have an election where you ran on your record of what happened here, and that we get a new board and that we get a board more representative of, of the people of this district, and that then a permanent decision be reached of a new superintendent. And I would ask that this board should really look honestly at what happened, what transpired, the lack of listening that you did to the people of this community, the moving forward with new tech, the firing of teachers. And really, I question whether you are qualified to move forward and select a new superintendent. And it would be better to have an election so that new superintendent has a broad support of the community, rather than it appearing that the same people that frankly screwed it up last time don't do it again. Thank you very much. Appreciate your allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Joe. And I will clarify, the only two people on the board at that point were Bob and I. Thank
Yes.
you. Next.
Hi, my name is Steve
Excuse me,
Jaber.
just a moment. Could you pick the microphone up too, sir?
Test.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great if you could use that. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Well, my name is Steve Jaber. I'm a parent of a student at Tam High. And I just wanted to clarify that I think that the process that we're going to be going through really sets the tone for the district going forward. So my suggestions, if I could be so bold, would be to prioritize the stakeholders in the process. And in my opinion, the stakeholders are the people that work directly for the superintendent. In this case, and not in priority order, the teachers, the administrators, and of course all the other district employees. So if I was making a pie chart, I'd probably give those people 60 or 70% of the power to, weigh in. Secondly, of course, is parents and parent leaders, and third would be the students. So a couple of ideas I came up with is I might suggest surveying every teacher, and you could do this either through a written survey or through in-person interviews, sort of roundtable discussions. Of course, I'm assuming you'll be asking parents, getting parent input, and again, modeling it after the search for Dr. Signard, which was, I think, a very good model, and also with the parent leaders, and then also finding some way to engage the students. And I don't really expect that you'd necessarily, have every student do something, but at least it'd be nice if they had the opportunity to weigh in on their own. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Henn, and I'm a math teacher at Tam High School. I also have 4 children that graduated from Tam, so I understand the parent perspective. What I'd like to bring up is that we're going through the WASP process right now, and we have 3 critical learner needs that have been identified by all 3 comprehensive high schools. 2 of them have to deal with providing students opportunity and access to AP and honors courses. The other one has to do with reducing the gap, achievement gap, basically, with our lower SES students. The third one has to do with increasing student achievement in mathematics. As a math teacher, I think it's extremely important that in the process of choosing this new superintendent, that the math departments across the district have a voice in terms of how can we work with this new superintendent. The landscape in math education is changing incredibly quickly. We have Common Core standards that are new. This year we're going to have a Smarter Balance test that we take for the first time that's replacing the STAR test, which all our schools will be accountable for in terms of how they do. There's also a lot of discussion in the news lately about when do you introduce algebra, okay? So we're also cutting courses in different grade levels that I think is important, and we need to be assured that we will have a respectful conversation with the new superintendent and in the process. And 2 other things, sorry, I'm a little bit mixed up here. The other thing, the Smarter Balance test, Michael McDowell mentioned about possibly getting our sophomores involved in the PISA test, which is the Performance for International Student Achievement. So again, that's math related. And then the last thing is that our SATs are also changing. We've got a new person in charge of that. So a lot of this is affecting math education. And math has been, quite frankly, hit really hard over these especially the last year. And we feel like we've been shut out So it would be nice if we feel like we've been included in the conversation, not only in the selection and choosing the superintendent, but feeling assured that we can continue having the conversations, because we're going to have to work very well collaboratively and have a respectful, professional relationship, basically. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Good evening. My name is Karen Bluestone, and I am a parent of a couple of feeder school children. And I've been keeping a very close eye on the district, hoping that the high schools in the district will be good places for my kids. And I think that selecting our next superintendent will probably be the most important thing that you do in your tenure. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments about how we might learn from the past. So I know in thinking about selecting the best candidate, you've been very careful in selecting a search firm that you think will do the best job for us. But I don't think that a search firm can be relied upon for anything beyond presenting potential candidates that have no references. And I'm not quite sure that that's all that we need, because references will always be positive. I think that additional support beyond the search firm is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking perhaps an independent, experienced investigator who can uncover what's not on the resume, what's not coming out in interviews with references would be very helpful. I'd also like to see the board add other non-voting experienced members to the selection committee, such as Walt Buster. Superintendent candidates are going to be concerned about the climate in the district. I mean, how could they not? If they don't do their homework, then they shouldn't be candidates. They're going to do their homework. They're going to be concerned. I think achieving community buy-in will be really critical, not just for the community, but for the superintendent candidates as well, in order to be successful once they get in the position. And I think the search firm's outreach to the community is going to help identify potential candidates, but not accomplish the buy-in for those who are selected. So I wanted to offer another idea. Perhaps finalist candidates can optionally meet with a group of us parents, maybe teachers as well, or anonymously complete, I'm going to call it an assignment. And what I mean is a set of questions that can help us to identify the person's working style, values, approach, the things where when we ask the questions, we hear back exactly what we want to hear, but when actually executing in office often is something completely different. And this practice of providing an assignment is widely used in the nonprofit executive search world. And I really feel that it would help to get at that, does this candidate walk the talk, along with the independent investigation and these other items that I mentioned. So I put those forward for you to consider, and perhaps the search firm has some additional ideas, but I do think we have to go deep this time.
Thank you very much.
My name is Kevin Killingsworth. I have a student at Tamalpais, and I agree wholeheartedly with what the previous speaker said. I think those were some great ideas. And when I listened to a couple weeks ago to the different search firms and the approach they were going to use in the first phase, it sounded very sound, where they were going to get extensive stakeholder input. It was going to be a transparent process. And then they're going to identify strengths and weaknesses, and here's the desired characteristics, and the whole community buys in, and everybody's happy that you've got those desired characteristics nailed down. Now, the part I am concerned about, though, is the process of actually getting someone that really meets those characteristics. And we've got a prime example that's worth looking at. It worries me if there's an affluent Midwestern school district in the news lately that sounds eerily similar to ours. They used a well-known search firm and went through the same process we're about to undertake. And the search firm noted in their leadership profile report under concerns and issues that decisions had been made by the superintendent and board that eroded trust of stakeholders and resulted in low staff morale and turmoil. That sounds very familiar. The search firm went through the exercise of developing desired traits, and they were exhaustive in getting community input. And then after all of that, the district ended up hiring someone that clearly didn't meet many of those key desired characteristics and ended up not working there. So how do we avoid the same mistake? Extensive time was spent in that one district developing the desired traits, but something went terribly wrong in selecting a candidate that meets those traits. And there's two basic issues as I see it. The first one is that more investigation is needed. Just as the previous speaker said, it really has to go deep. It has to go well beyond a site visit orchestrated by the candidate. And clearly we'd like to get the search firm's input on how they're going to do this and dig more deeply. If it takes more money, it's well worth what needs to be spent to do that deep investigation on the final candidates. So really, how can we do more extensive investigation and more thorough candidate questioning to weed out the rotten apples before they get hired? And then secondly is the problem mentioned by one of the search firms at their presentation 2 weeks ago. How do you avoid the natural human tendency to select the candidate that you like rather than the candidate that best meets the characteristics that the whole community is bought into? So I would strongly urge the board to select a respected third party such as Walt Buster to participate as a non-voting member of the selection committee. But the key, of course, is to define what the responsibilities will be. In order to gain the public's trust in this board's decision, the third party would need to have a real stated responsibility. And in my mind, his or her purpose should be to focus the board on selecting a candidate that best meets the published desired characteristics, and then ensuring the public that the board did that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Parrish. I'm a teacher here at Redwood High School. I just have a very quick point that I'd like to bring up, that we're losing Lori Parrish as our assistant superintendent as well in terms of finance and facilities. Maybe there's more as well in terms of a turnover in the administration at the district level, and that point in terms of searching for a superintendent who isn't coming in alone, but is then also needing to work with another new assistant superintendent, and how that may play in terms of a search, and at what point is Lori Parrish's position being fulfilled as well, and what is that process going to be like? Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Benedetto Chico. I have two children here at Redwood. One is a graduate from Redwood and a younger kid in one of the feeder schools. I have a question first about tonight's agenda that is not clear to me. Beside the superintendent search, you have another item on the agenda, correct, in the closed session?
We do have a closed session.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, at the October 28 meeting, when Bob Walter was walking on extremely thin legal ice, you stopped me and Linda from making a comment before the closed session. So I was wondering if you're going to allow a comment before. Okay, that's going to be next?
This would be the time.
So the closed session tonight is about the superintendent search? Because from the agenda published,
You're right.
it was not about that, it was a different item. So what is going to be the closed section about tonight?
As it's stated, it is
Public employee
That's it.
discipline, dismissal, release, and or reassignment.
Okay, so we are allowed to make comments about that as well, before the closed section and after the closed session, correct?
afterwards, there will be nothing to report out, so.
So before we can make a comment about that as well.
Right.
Okay, just to be sure that they should know about it.
Okay.
So we can talk not only about the superintendent search, but about the closed session.
Sure.
Okay, very well. About the superintendent search, I have a couple of suggestions, but first, actually one is going to be the profile of the superintendent, that you should be looking for somebody who's not coming in, trying to run the show and micromanage every single employee in the district like we are having now with Ms. Kimbrell. I usually look to somebody I like to use as an example, like the general manager of an hospital. He's making sure that the oxygen is flowing through the pipes, the medicines are on the cart, but he's not going to go into the surgery to tell the doctor what to do. So we would like to keep the superintendent out of the classroom, for example, as long as the teachers perform well, as they've been doing extremely well in our schools, and just to be a facilitator of everything going on in our school. That should be a priority. We don't want a king, a queen, anybody trying to come here and change everything overnight. So in the profile you're going to give to the search, please consider this. I'm also concerned, as I said at the other board meeting, what's going on now. Ms. Kimbrell is clearly not working for the district, and I agree with her 100%. She got definitely other items to worry about. And we have an assistant superintendent with 2 positions, so I'm sure he's extremely overwhelmed, and I'm really concerned who is running the show. And that might be a question, a comment about the closed session. I'm not sure about that. Who is going to actually run the ship on a daily basis from now on? How can we keep Ms. Kimbrell here, knowing what's going on with her position, So do we have a plan? Do you have a contingency plan now about what's going to happen if Ms. Kimbrell moves out tomorrow and McDowell maybe is looking for another job? I don't know. That's what I've been running a company for many, many years, 25 years. And when we went through crisis, and unfortunately we did a couple of times, managers jump ship. They try to find, they're concerned about the ship sinking, so they want to find another place. So do you have a contingency plan about that? If we lose, as the person before us said, maybe somebody else is going away. I'd like to know if you consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chico.
Hi there, Robbie Pallison. The other day I stopped by Redwood, and I was a bit disappointed because I stopped by to just kind of learn about what services might be there. But I just got put on the wellness advisory board for this district, and I thought I'd stop in to see how, what's happening. And when I came to the front desk, I asked the receptionist, where could I find some resources? What's available here if somebody wants to wellness? And her response is, I just do attendance. And I was like, well, can you show me where could I find somebody? She said, oh, you can talk to the director. She's busy, she was busy. And I thought, goodness, that's pretty bad front end. If you come in looking for help, and the first person, whether you're a parent or a student who you're going to be in contact with, is going to be somebody who doesn't necessarily know what's available. It's not on them, but I think it's important that probably the district invests in educating receptionists about what's available, because there really are triage personnel. That's what those are the faces of the district. I just really encourage you guys to, when there's an opportunity, make it, a bridge to more opportunities. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Hi, my name is Ellen Strandbeck. I wasn't actually planning on speaking tonight, but then I saw Walt, and he reminded me the last time he saw me, I was a child when he hired me, I think. So I just wanted to say, I teach at Tamalpais now, although I started in 83 or 4 down at Drake, and I taught his lovely daughter, Amy, French. But I have not been coming to very many of these board meetings this year, partly because I'm not a big fan of dissension and anger and conflict. But tonight I came because it feels like we are now moving towards some sort of healing and some sort of forward-looking, and I think everybody wants to really make this district great, and it is a wonderful district. And I also wanted to warn that all those halcyon days of yore, there are always issues. I've been in the district 30 years now. John Lou and I are the old people of the district, and there were good periods and bad periods. There have been fabulous teachers all the way through. And I think for the search, what I would like to put in from my vantage point is that we keep the focus on the students, on the kids, and they are the most important. I have had 2 daughters go through Drake High, and I think I've taught at every school but San Andreas now, that we value their learning, and then we also value our teachers. And I think, if anything, when I've heard people talk in hallways or over the course of the last few years, is that sense of being invisible, that some of us have felt somewhat invisible from the board, from the superintendent and the assistant superintendents. And it's not to say that people haven't valued new programs. It's great to have new programs and have new life. It's just that everybody needs to be seen and heard. And I think where I saw this district kind of take a dogleg was during the listening campaign, when people really had a lot to say, and it felt like the board didn't really listen. That there were a lot of issues there that I think we could have actually addressed at that point and then moved forward. But it was an odd sort of, we all talked and then we didn't really feel heard. And you have an aging staff now. When I first was hired back in the 80s, I was in my 20s and everybody was in their 50s, and they all look kind of old, and now I'm in my late 50s. And there are a lot of us that are going to be around for the next 5 to 10 years, and we want to be seen, and we want to be heard, and we want to keep teaching kids, and we want to do exciting new things. And so in that search, I would like to find a person that really values the administration they're going to be working with, the staff, the custodial staff, every aspect, and especially the kids. And that has felt like some of the focus has moved aside from that. But it's a wonderful district, 30 years in, a few more to go, and I just want to say that I'm excited about moving forward, and I'm excited that it feels like there's a sea change and there's going to be some positive energy moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening, board. Welcome, Dr. Goldstone, board members, classified staff. My name is Laura Ibanez. I represent the classified employees of this district and collaborate in the selection process of this next superintendent. We are one of the most important stakeholder groups and members of this community. Many of us contribute to the property, bond, and parcel taxes that fund this district. We believe this district that we are loyal, record-keeping historians, with many of us who have worked in our positions and have been part of this community for 15, 20, 30 plus years. So what I did is I went and asked my executive board, as well as site reps, to send me their 3 criteria that you asked for: the greatest strengths of the district, greatest needs and critical issues, and characteristics of a new superintendent that they'd like to see. Of course, the greatest strengths of the district are award-winning educational experience with history of excellence and innovation, dedicated and exceptionally talented faculty and staff, high-performing students, highly involved community support, financially sound and stable district, and an ideal location with upscale campuses and facilities. The greatest needs and critical issues of the district, we feel, are the process of healing the district and bringing faculty and staff back together, transparency and continual open communication with all employees, bringing back the 92% of hours, days, and classified positions of services for the students that were laid off in 2010 because of the claims of lack of funds, restore morale among the employees, greater transparency regarding admin evaluation process and the decision making, bring back summer school, get back to being a district to be proud of during an era when all those involved with our students' development were present, collaborated, and had a vested interest in the best possible outcome as a collected, unified body. Characteristics of the new superintendent: honest, fair, respectful, and a strong leader, experienced in reading a budget, track record of responsible and effective leadership as a superintendent, someone who will respect and work collaboratively with both unions, someone who values the input of staff, faculty, students, and the community in the decision-making process, someone who communicates clearly to the board and all stakeholders of all new issues, new changes, new policies, as well as being accountable for for the results of those choices. We would like them to be approachable. A creative problem solver, someone who will spend a healthy percentage of time visiting our sites, neighborhood, and community mindset. Be a team member, kind, sincere, and thoughtful, and last but not least, have a good sense of humor. Thank you.
And Laura, hold on, please. Bring those when you meet with, it doesn't come to us. Because this evening is not a time that we're recording any of that,
Okay,
but definitely make sure that Dr. Goldstein has it.
thank you. We
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that we are part of the process.
Exactly, absolutely. Oh, you'll definitely be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Terry Crotty, 18 years with the district, retired for the last 6 months. And I would just urge everyone to remember that the most important stakeholders in all of this are the students. They come first. And as far as I'm concerned, then you've got your staff. And when I started working at Drake High School, we didn't have faculty and classified. We had staff. And that included the principal and the assistant principals and the teachers and all the classified employees. We were just staff. And the atmosphere certainly has changed in 18 years. I would like to see it come back. And just one note, when Robbie mentioned coming to Redwood and talking to the receptionist, we don't have receptionists in this district. They were laid off. So everybody's filling in. And of course, the people that are filling in can't do as good a job as the people who were hired to do specifically receptionist work. So those are things to take into consideration. I definitely like to be one of the stakeholders in one of the groups because I represent community, staff, and I'm going to have grandkids going to Drake. So there you go. I hope I get to talk to you.
You will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Okay, so now we are going to go to our agenda item, which I'm very excited about. And I want to welcome, find my last notes here. I want to say welcome to Dr. Steve Goldstein, and we're definitely, Goldstone, sorry. And we're very much looking forward to working with you and getting started. How do you take us down the road?
Take you down the road. Let me start up here. I gave each of the board members a tentative outline of our schedule, and I'd like to cover that. But before I do, something I'm not sure I said this last week. It was just last Tuesday. I learned so much in a short period of time, and I'm glad to be back. But one of the things that I would have said, and maybe I did, but there's usually the question, what do we know about the school district? And I think I did mention that I have a daughter and her family who lives in the community. I have a daughter-in-law who teaches at the community college. But what we really like to say is we really don't know anything about the district. Because what we want to do is learn about the school district and come in with kind of a clean slate and learn so that we don't bring any preconceptions into this process. We want to learn as much as we can from as many people as possible. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking to a lot of people. I thought of this on the way home last Tuesday night, and that was, I should have mentioned the fact I have, in all the presentations we've given, we never had as many people in the audience as we had that night, which is fantastic. If there's anything that often frustrates us is to go through this process, arrange for a lot of community stakeholder meetings and staff stakeholder meetings and student stakeholder meetings, etc., and very few people show up. That is always disappointing to us. I have a feeling that that will not be a disappointment in your school district, which is fantastic. We want to learn as much as we can. And as we learn about your school district, we'll make our efforts that much more effective. Somebody mentioned, one of the 7 or 8 people that spoke tonight, they felt that your greatest responsibility was selecting a superintendent. As a former superintendent, I believe that is your greatest responsibility. I may be looking at that through that lens, but I do believe that's the most important thing you can do. And when there's a perfect marriage between a board and a superintendent, and that superintendent has been selected because he or she will meet the needs of that school district. And when things are really humming, sometimes you can't feel that. But when it's not humming, when there's not that kind of relationship, you can really feel it. What we want to do is provide the board with the candidates who will best meet the needs of the school district, so that the board can select those candidates. I also want to mention the person who said this is all about kids. Absolutely. That's why why everybody is here. It's about kids. One of the frustrating things that hit me when I was the first superintendent about 100 years ago, across the bay in Albany, was I could attend board meetings and you never heard about a kid. And sometimes I'd look at the agenda items and I'd say, how does this relate to kids? And so I always tried to make an effort after realizing what was happening, of being able to make a connection with whatever the board agenda item was, how it would have an impact on kids. Because that's what we're all about. That's what you're all about. That's what everybody in this room is about. So with that, you have a tentative timeline. I hope we can finalize that tonight. That doesn't mean that come June, something might happen in one of your lives and we can't meet that date, but we'd like to at least tentatively have it arranged. So if we just start at the beginning, the first item has been completed. We were selected by you as our search firm. I just want to comment on the fact that Dave Brown and I were here last Tuesday night because of things that frankly we were unaware of. Dave thought it best, so that he was not a distraction, that I would continue. I've asked Frank Koska, the president of our organization. Frank and I started this organization back in 2000, would fill in. So he was not available tonight, but you'll be meeting him in the future. So as we move forward, it'll be Frank and I, and may bring some other folks in to help us out in the stakeholder meetings. Tonight's meeting is about 4 things, or 5 things. One is to establish this calendar. Number 2 is to do the brainstorming of your greatest strengths. 3, your concerns, your critical issues. And 4, identify the characteristics you'd like to see in the new superintendent, which is pretty much a mirror of what we'll be doing with stakeholder groups. And then the last thing we ask you to do tonight is identify for us who we'd be meeting with when we start these stakeholder meetings. And I have a meeting on Thursday with Walt, and we'll organize for those meetings. So that's tonight. What we plan to do the week of March the 23rd and probably March the 30th, 2 weeks, is to have those stakeholder meetings. And I've delayed that by a couple weeks because we want to be sure that we notify people in time. If we say, hey, we're going to have a bunch of meetings next week, there will be a bunch of people who said they can't arrange it in such a short time, and there'll be people who won't have heard about the meetings. So we want to delay that by a couple weeks so we're sure we can get the notice out that stakeholders who are interested will come out to the meetings. At the same time, we will have a survey that we'll put on your website, and people can fill that out on the website, or send it directly to me. I have no idea if this will be the feeling in this district, but in some districts we've discovered people feel more comfortable if it comes directly to us and isn't filtered through the district, and feel that they're a little more comfortable. So if people want to do that, they'll be encouraged to fill out the survey. On the 7th of April, we'll come back to you and bring to you all of the information that we have gathered from the various stakeholder groups that we've met with. A couple days before that meeting, we'll give you a booklet that will show everything we've heard. And it'll be directly aligned with exactly what we're hearing. So we'll put down on the charts exactly the words. I can think of only one time since we've been doing this that I altered it, and it was just because the obscenity was just a little too much to be able to talk about in public, but we were able to give the board the impression of what that was. But other than that, it'll be exactly as we hear it. I'd like to emphasize this is not a scientific survey. The people who will be coming out to talk to us are people who have the time and have the interest to either talk to us or to fill out the survey. So it's not scientific. And so one group we might meet with might have 10 people, another group might have 2 people, so whatever it is. But we just want you to be able to get a feeling of all of the comments that we hear. We will, at that same night, go through what you're going to brainstorm tonight. And as a result of learning what we heard from your stakeholders, we'll ask you to look at the lists again. And is there anything that maybe you didn't put on there that, as a result of the stakeholder input, you feel you should put on there? And so we'll go through each of those 3 lists. And then we'll ask you to prioritize those lists. So as a result, strengths, hopefully you'll come up with 8 to 10 greatest strengths of your community. And you have some great strengths here. We'll ask you to do the same for the critical issues and the needs. And then we'll ask you, as you have those prioritized, is based upon that, what are the characteristics you need to find in your new superintendent in order to build upon those strengths and to address the concerns that you've identified. And then you will list the characteristics, the experiences, the values you'd like to see in your new superintendent. As a result of that, we'll create a profile, develop an electronic brochure that'll go on our website, and begin the process of sending that information out. At that meeting of the 7th of April, we'll also discuss the interview structure and the parameters you want to establish during that time. You've heard from members of, from stakeholders in your school district this evening about that. So at that time, it'll be an open meeting. That is April the 7th. That'll be a part of that discussion also. We will begin on the 13th of that month, April, disseminate information. But I need to tell you, we're going to advertise before that time because we want to be sure that people are aware of this opportunity. And we don't want to wait until after we've done all this work, so we want to do that. Some people have already called us. And in fact, I had a person call me today interested in the job. I said, you know, give me your name, continue to look at our website. I don't know what we're looking for. We'll know that after we talk to the stakeholders and met with the board. But hold on. That person said, well, do you have a database of candidates? I said, absolutely not. And I think it responds to a question we had last week, and whether that we do have a stable of candidates, which we don't. So we don't have in our mind's eye any particular candidates out there. We will once we are able to have you develop the criteria. So start disseminating information. The deadline will be May the 15th, Friday the 15th. It gives us, I believe that's 6 weeks to be able to recruit. And during that time, we send out probably 350 of the brochures on an email blast to colleges and universities, send it out to the 34 members of the COSCA group, and ask them, do you know people who meet the criteria that the Tamalpais board has established? On the 19th, we will screen the applicants, identify those that a panel Costco Group people feel are meet your criteria. We'll do some reference check, and we will also then deliver the files to you folks, so that you see the complete file of every single candidate that's applied. On the 27th of May, we'll meet with you. At that time, say, hey, these are the people that we're recommending that you interview, and you'll say to us, hey, we agree. After looking at the folders, those are the people we want to interview also. Or you'll say, why didn't you include so-and-so? And we'll tell you why. Or why did you include so-and-so? The final decisions to who you interview will be your decision. But we'll give you our best shot. That is a closed session because of confidentiality relative to the candidates. Schedule a interview on the 30th, it's a Saturday of May, for the first round of interviews. The interviews are very structured. Each candidate will receive the same information, the same questions, the same period of time, and then we'll ask you to select 1, 2, or maybe 3 final candidates to meet with you on the following Monday. That following Monday, we ask you to hopefully identify your final candidate, and then during that week sometime, we urge all 5 board members to make a visit to the home school district. If during that process you haven't, and I want to emphasize this, you didn't find a candidate, that's rare, but we want to be sure that you're 110% satisfied with your candidate, and if you're not, then we'll have a discussion, should we continue to do this? In the 65 or so searches we've done, I think there's been 2 or 3 cases where we've continued the search, gone out and reached out for other candidates. But that's a way of saying to you that this is way too important to just settle because it's June. There will be an opportunity for us to extend that effort if need be. We will then work with the candidate and your legal counsel in developing a contract, and then the new person will begin. The target date is July 1st. So, any comments about that schedule? Or?
So if I understand it right, so we will be scheduling a meeting for April 7th.
Right.
May 27th.
Right.
And then the 30th and the 1st.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll send out a note so that everybody has their calendars.
Can I just clarify, May 27th, the description says provide the board with a status report. Do you intend that to be a meeting, or is this a written report?
No, that's a meeting in closed session.
It's a closed session.
It's an oral status report.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm the date so we can get everybody's calendars to block them off. Okay. Any other questions?
I have
Yes.
a question. As we go through this process, will you be helping us keep our community informed of what's happening, or is that the board's responsibility? Will you help us with our website, or how do we keep everyone?
We can help you with that. We need your guidance, but we'll help you with that along the line.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. Are we all comfortable with that?
Any other questions on the timeline? Okay.
Okay. What we'd like to do now is, what I'd like to do now is to look at the strengths of your school district. And your community, what you see as those great strengths. And that helps us to understand the environment we're working in. It helps us to attract good candidates, as well as the critical issues. But this helps us frame what you see as the great strengths of the schools. So, brainstorming, just the 4 members of the board. Brainstorming, a couple rules, just a couple words, not a real long editorial. And if one of your fellow board members says something you think is completely ridiculous, don't let them know, because we want people to feel free to express themselves. Okay.
Stable student body. Kids who start here in the ninth grade are likely to graduate in 12th grade.
Okay.
Well, I'll stay with the student. I think we have extraordinary students. They're smart, worldly, questioning, they really care about things deeply.
Okay.
I'd like to say we have excellent teaching staff and classified staff. And administrative staff.
What is that last one?
Our administrators also. Our staff.
Yeah, I'd say dedicated, they're very dedicated, very caring, the entire staff. So that includes, like Terry's, it has everybody,
Yeah.
whether counselor, whoever. It's whatever's best for the student. And that's, I think that's a really not necessarily something that I hear statewide.
Okay. Other great strengths.
Socioeconomics of the community.
By the way, I'll type all this up, and I can read it sometimes. I was one of those people that started school writing left-handed. Somebody, an early teacher, took exception to that, and had me writing my right hand, and finally gave up on that. So consequently, you have this kind of handwriting, but I can read it sometimes.
I'd say,
Yeah.
community support, we have our classes, our bonds, our community is very supportive of our district.
Okay.
And I'd even say more, that the school is a big part of the community in each of our communities. I think the school itself is, the towns around it consider the school part of the community.
Okay.
We have strong feeder schools.
All right.
Our facilities are in great shape.
I'd say facilities, and then financially, we're very, very stable right now between the three, our 3A ratings and parcel tax, which is due for, it's just been passed pretty recently, and our property taxes are, so financially, we're in a good place.
Okay.
We have an excellent mock trial team at TAM.
Are you connected with that, son? What other strengths do you see?
I'd say that each of our schools has a very distinct personality, and yet all of them have similar goals and feel of putting students and learning at the front. They are very distinct, which I think is a strength.
They each have their own personality, but
That their, that the
goals are
goals
similar.
are very similar of what they're doing.
Okay.
We have,
We have,
go ahead.
I think our mission statement, which Jeannie just copied out for all of us, is something that we all feel really good about.
By the way, there's extra copies of the mission statement on that table right behind the camera. If anyone wants one.
When was that developed?
It was 6 years ago.
Very high rate of engagement of students in extracurriculars and athletics. Very high.
Okay.
I think we have really good support systems for staff, from professional development, different kinds of, from what I understand from talking to other schools, like for mentoring, we still have mentoring, we have trainings for first-year teachers, second-year teachers, things that most districts don't afford anymore. We have smaller classes comparative to most California.
Okay.
We have an experienced and stable group of teachers. And when I say stable, I mean we have low turnover.
We have excellent benefits, or salary benefits that will make my bonuses attractive.
I'm beginning to feel like
It's wonderful. I think we also focus on the whole child. It's not just academics that we can district, it's all elements of the kid.
Okay.
Our curriculum and assessment system is very strong.
Okay.
Anybody say we have high achieving students?
I think
We
that was
should.
one of the first.
But if it hasn't been said, we,
Can't read.
as Bob said, an extraordinary body of students.
Anything else?
Do we have that word AAA rated up there anywhere?
Strong finance.
Strong finance?
Pretty proud of that.
We also have, we work collaboratively with other community organizations.
Good list.
We're in beautiful Marin County.
Hey, there you go.
Are we kicking off Bob's,
Yeah, I'm watching.
Okay.
Some of those are his that I'm saying. I'm making sure that I've got Bob
Yeah,
included.
okay. And you have another go at this? Okay? You good? Okay, if you think of anything else, we can add it to this list, but, that's an impressive list. Oftentimes, you really don't have an opportunity to sit down and think, what are all the positive things here? Because you often don't get that opportunity. So we oftentimes have boards when they go through this, chat, things are pretty good.
I really enjoy doing this, actually.
Yeah, it's, there are a lot of good things. Now, critical issues and needs. Same brainstorming idea. And I don't look at this, and this is what we say to stakeholder groups, as negative. This is where you are. It's the 3rd of March 2015. This is what things are like today. And in 10 years from now, when your next superintendent retires, great accolades, you'll go through this process again, and there'll be a whole new list. That's great. That's how an organization improves and changes. So I don't look at this as negative. Okay, so what do you see as those critical issues and needs?
I'm going to start with increase enrollment, how it impacts finances as well as facilities.
You have declining enrollment?
No, increase.
You have an increased enrollment?
Increasing enrollment.
Increasing enrollment.
Hugely increasing.
Okay, impacts facilities?
And financial, because we're a basic aid.
Okay.
high rates of binge drinking and drug use by students.
Okay.
Achievement gap.
Okay.
I'd say that I have some concerns over staff leaving. We have some staff leaving.
Okay.
I'd say, sorry,
Go ahead, you're on a roll.
that we have, I think one of the challenges is we have 9 feeder schools with 9 separate curriculums and 9 separate communities feeding into us.
Okay.
So I think, I told you before that in terms of strength, I thought we had stable staff and low turnover. I think that's also a challenge. Because a wise administrator told me that that presents some, taught me that that presents some challenges in terms of not having having somewhat less, fewer incoming teachers as part of the dynamic than other districts.
Okay. That's a good point. Sometimes strength can have a other side to it. Okay.
No, you guys are being so quiet. Go.
We're being
No, you go.
respectful, we're demonstrating being.
Chuck, go.
Divisions within the community and among the staff.
Was what I was gonna say. The same one. It said divided staff on school sites.
Okay.
I'd like to piggyback on that, we've heard it tonight too, just hearing that some of our staff don't feel like their opinions have been heard. That's a concern.
I was gonna say, I think we're having a breakdown in communication right now.
Okay.
I also think there's been a lot of negativity since I've been on the board. Hopefully that's not a direct correlation, but I'd like to see, I think that we need to get out there and talk more about all the great things that are happening in the district.
When you say need, is that you as a board needs to do that or what?
I think it's the district needs to do that.
Pardon?
The district needs to do that. I just said, I don't know, every site and.
So it's probably neat for the district to get out and talk about the good things, maybe get out and talk and also see the good things that happen. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that we need to comment, to really look at Common Core and where we are in our introduction, our working on it.
Okay.
I think we need to focus more of the discussion on students and less on adults.
one of Bob's, I'll see what Bob, ensure that every student has access to the same quality education regardless of which school they came from or which teacher that they currently have in our schools. He has both. Yeah, there is one.
Quality, has access to quality education regardless.
Of which one of the school, theater schools they came from, but also with regards to which teacher they currently have in our schools. It shouldn't make any difference who your teacher is, you're still getting access to the same quality education.
Okay.
And that is a
Okay.
We're going to turnover at the administrative level, right? We're going to need a new CFO and new facility.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, we won't know about that till next week.
Yeah.
Bottom up, we need
Yeah, we
just
have-
administrative firm.
That is a challenge.
Right. There's also a need to focus on, I should say, threats to basic aid.
Are you referring to the reserve cap in there too?
Yes.
Do you mind get that detailed?
Yeah, you can
Oh,
say
the reserve cap.
including the reserve cap.
Definitely, that's a concern.
Okay.
I think a critical issue is that we need to recognize that educating kids today is very different than it was even 5 years ago or 6 years ago, that the world that we're all living in has really changed, even in the 7 years that I've been on the board. And the work world has changed even more with technology and more international kind of world we're living in. I think that's a critical thing that our education needs to address, that starting in high school, or even before that, but for us, that the world is a different place than it was even 5 years ago.
We need to provide more support for staff. I mean, we're asking staff to make various changes in terms of realigning courses and the way courses are taught, and I think we have to provide the kind of support for staff and students when we make those changes to increase the chances of success.
Any other issues?
Do we have, I'm just thinking about a culture of respect, as we all think about teaching and learning and students and, the culture, I think right now is a little shaky. I think we could improve the general vibe. That sounds very helpful.
Let me add another word to that. We need to promote more civilities.
Yes, that's the big buzzword.
And I think the one last thing that I had is that there seems to be a lack of trust. And I think that's a critical issue right now.
Lack of trust, in general.
I would just put amongst some of the staff, some of the school community, not everybody, some of the parents, mainly adults. Boards, same people, administrators, other staff, board.
Okay, any other critical issues, needs you want to identify? All right. characteristics. So you have a bunch of strengths here, and a bunch of needs and critical issues. What we try and get away from is somebody down the road saying, yeah, you want somebody who walks on water. Just try and avoid that. Somebody saying that. The fact is, we'd like somebody who can at least identify the rocks that they walk through the water and stay upright. But what we'd like to do is, and it really relates to what I said last time, is you could have a superintendent who's doing, or an administrator who's doing a fantastic job in a school district somewhere in California or in New York or God knows where. Great job, but that doesn't guarantee that they'll do a great job here. Because school districts and communities are very different. So based upon your strengths and your critical issues, what kind of a person do you need? What kind of experiences, what kind of qualities do you want to find in the superintendent to build on those strengths and maintain those strengths and to address the critical issues?
I'd like someone who can promote a culture in which all staff members feel valued.
That's a perfect example of what I was talking about because it relates directly to one of the critical issues and needs. To have that need, then we need to find some people that have a track record of
I'd say good communication skills.
okay.
These are sort of similar, an inclusive, collaborative leader. I'm sort of cheating, I'm looking at Walt's PowerPoint that we all helped.
Oh.
That's okay, I'm looking at our strategic priorities, not cheating.
Okay, we're not cheating.
It's not cheating, we're learning from,
Exactly.
we're using our resources.
Actually, that's a really good idea.
Some of those, yeah.
I don't know how to phrase it, healer slash conciliator.
I was thinking consensus builder.
Like, how about a leader?
Yeah.
I'd also like someone who's focused, who's thought about it and focused on 21st century learning.
Bob has a strong leader who can weather disagreement and make decisions that are in the best interest of students, nonetheless.
Cindy, what was the last part?
Is willing to make whatever decisions are in the best interest of students. So strong leader, that's where I think that probably is.
Okay.
I would think someone who has worked in a community that's similar, with similar demographics would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
Say an active listener.
Somebody that's a real, I just described as a people person. It's visible and accessible to everyone.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Chuck.
You're building on that, someone who is out and about on the different school sites, makes himself visible to all the staff, the students, the parents.
Okay.
An ability to bring people along haven't said anything about fiscal management or so. Or did we? Did
No.
I not see that?
No.
That's an important one. Needs to be savvy about all things financial.
Successful fiscal management.
I'd like someone who can help the board be as effective as possible.
Okay.
It would be nice to have a leader who mentors management staff and assistant superintendents, so serves as a mentor.
I put mentor also, and I was thinking, like, somebody who builds leadership within the staff.
Deals effectively with the rest.
Okay.
A creative thinker.
Okay.
Honest and trustworthy. And a few more on that. We had a team builder with the board. I think we put that down, didn't we?
I think so, yeah. Yes. Put that down. It was in a different way. Okay.
I think we got most of those.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, are you happy with your list? You'll have another chance.
Can we,
Yes, sir.
someone who walks on water?
How about skips on water?
You can always like.
When we went over the list of activities, I talked about the 2-week period that we've been meeting with your stakeholders. I want you now to identify who those stakeholders are. There are a lot of them. We want to meet with as many people as possible. And one of the things that, just to emphasize, we'll have a long list of and a schedule of who we meet with. But when we bring the results back, we're not going to say this group said these things. And we don't take down the names of people who provide the input, because we want people to feel honest about expressing themselves. And if we come back with some things that disturb you, kill the messenger, which is me, but not the message, because we really want you to hear whatever the message is. And whether it's a surprise or it isn't, I have no idea. But I'm the one you kill, not the message. We want you to hear the message. You can accept it or not, but we want you to hear it. We'll go through this same process with the stakeholder groups that you identify, with one exception. When we meet with these stakeholders, we'll ask them to prioritize these lists. So we'll ask them to prioritize their list of strengths and their list of critical issues. And as a result of that prioritization, then we'll say, now what do you want to see in your superintendent? And then we'll ask them to do the same thing. And we'll bring that back to you, indicating everything they say, but also indicating their top priorities. Okay, so stakeholders. So that this will guide us when I meet with Walt on Thursday of setting up these meetings? Who should we be meeting?
Obviously, ones are the staff, students.
Why don't you just have people here raise their hands? Bunch of stakeholders.
Tell me about, okay, maybe we don't have, we want to meet with staff, all different staff. We'd like to meet with administrators, meet with principals separately from teachers. Meet with teachers, meet with the teachers' organization, meet with classified organization. So, you know, all of those, as many of those groups as we possibly can. Meet with district office people, meet with people who hopefully will feel comfortable with each other and expressing themselves. So, you know, that's a pretty standard list, but what are those
I think
groups that we?
one of the groups is our superintendent. We have what's it called, the top 12. The superintendents from all of our feeder districts do meet. In fact, our current superintendent is the co-chair of this group. Because our superintendent is not only our superintendent, they tend to be a leader within the county because of the fact we have 9. And so I think those superintendents would be a really good group.
Do they have regular meetings?
Yeah. They called, I think, Talk 12.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Talk 12.
Feeder superintendent.
But it is the feeder superintendents, and they do meet regularly.
Should also meet with Mary Jane Burke. So, I have a question. You talked about meeting with staff, and it sounds like it would be necessary to group, to some extent, some of these meetings. You can't tell everybody individually. But one of the needs, right, one of the challenges that was identified before was that sometimes there's divided staff at different school sites and so forth. And so one of your challenges is to be able to, and sometimes people are intimidated from speaking. You know, there's pretty strong views. And so one of your challenges is to be able to hear from staff members who otherwise in certain settings might feel intimidated from speaking.
Okay.
I do have a question about that too. How will we get every voice? We're talking about stakeholder groups, but we have a lot of teachers and classified staff, students. Are we just looking for representative groups? Then like everyone can have an opportunity to say something, through surveys or, how do you do it?
We really like to have kind of you all come meetings, we announce here's meeting, here are times that we'll be meeting. And for people to come out, this may have to be refined in order to make people feel comfortable. And that may be more meetings so that they're small enough that people can express themselves at the schools. So we'll have to work on that. We don't like to have huge meetings, because if we have huge meetings, there are some people that do feel intimidated, even if everybody's friendly and happy, just talking out. So we like to have smaller meetings.
But an online survey would allow a different opportunity for people to express themselves.
And in recent searches, especially when we've been using SurveyMonkey as the technique, we've gotten huge responses from people. And we say identify yourself as optional. As I said earlier, sometimes people want to send it directly to us. I'll have my telephone number and my email address so that people can do that when they feel intimidated about sending that to the district. So there will be that opportunity.
How do you reach like community? I mean, we do have people within the community no longer have kids in the school, but I mean alumni. We have people who are like 3rd generation. I mean, people who really care deeply about the district. But how do you reach them? I don't know.
And that's something we really have to depend upon you folks to tell us. In some communities, there's organizations that are in existence. Others, we reach out through the newspaper or
We're so spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, the beach community, that's very different, very, very different. The valley's very different.
And we're not going to just meet here
The valley's different.
at your district office. We want to go out and meet where it's most convenient for people. does. So some of those far out places, Bolinas, do they,
Yep,
we
that's
take
all
down
our
the sign
beaches.
that you can find.
You'll have to find it.
So we'll have to,
That's right.
and we need some of your input on how to reach those folks. Yes, sir.
So I think you need to meet with parent leaders, right? So it would be PT, SA, foundation, athletic boosters,
Booster site council.
site council, I mean, the parents who are involved and spend the time.
Advisory boards, we have advisory, she had superintendent.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Advisory boards?
Yeah, there's some advisory boards,
Advisory
parent advisory though.
to,
Well, there's a superintendent one and a couple of schools,
So there's
got
a-
principal
okay.
one.
do you have, Ed Foundation?
Yes.
We have foundations at each.
Each school has their own foundation. So if I, each school has a site council, a foundation, booster, club, PTSA, or parent group.
Except for our alternative high schools, those two smaller schools don't have.
That's true.
don't-
Well, they have a parent advisory, don't they, Corey? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
San Andreas has a parent advisory.
We do have a parent advisory. We do not have a foundation.
How about student leadership?
Yeah, students.
So we have ASB,
You have four schools?
we have five.
There's
Five
five.
schools? We'd like to really meet with students.
Yeah.
Not for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's great to meet with kids. The other is they have great insight. And if you have probably a pretty stable student population, so we usually ask how many been in the school district since kindergarten. I imagine
None.
no, in the community, you're right. Since the ninth grade. But how many have been in, in this community since you were in kindergarten? And that helps us, gives us a sense.
I think the tricky part is that not just the leadership kids, that we get input from more of a cross-section, whether it's, I don't know, link crew tends to be some, depends.
I think what we do is we talk to principals and say we want
That's
a
good, yeah.
good representative group of kids, not just your
Yes, I
group of kids, but
exactly.
well-rounded group of kids.
I'll have different views.
What about,
I'm sorry, Julie, what's the name of
Advisory
the?
council.
Student advisory councils to principals,
that's
which
right.
you referred to.
What's that?
Student advisory councils that the schools have, that at least 3 of them do.
Okay. And they meet with the principal?
But I was going to try to ask a different question as well, which is, when we met in Marin City with, there's a support group there, right? They provide academic support.
Oh, like Bridget, yeah.
Bridge the gap.
There-
So,
There's a group in Marin City that works with a lot of our kids. It's called Bridge the Gap, and then the Hannah Project also.
and Marine Promise?
Hannah Project?
Yeah, and both of those groups are in Marin City.
Okay.
do you meet with the police?
Mayors?
We often do, and meet with elected officials and.
Well, there's the juvenile officers or probation officers might be very interesting.
The student resource, school resource officers.
That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, we also have cooperative agreements with, like facility sharing agreements, for example, with Larkspur. So, there's close cooperation with city administrators there, I'm sure other cities as well.
Corporation yard.
But the corporation has that. Should you meet with the, Jeff Frost, or,
Oh, JLAC.
JLAC, the JLAC folks, lobbyists, blah, 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 that's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I don't think
Mary
so.
Jane.
I don't think so. I think Mary Jane.
Steve, what's been your experience in
Some of the best meetings we have with kids have been at continuation schools, as an example. Need to?
Yeah. He's the counselor at one.
Okay. You often get, I'm just thinking of school district we did last year. We went out, I won't mention the school district, but their continuation school is outside of the city limits. I mean, I had to drive to get to it. If there was another side of the tracks, they would be there. It was awful. The facilities were the pits. The rest of the district was great. I mean, it just broke your heart. Best kids, most honest kids that you could possibly meet with, who deserved a lot more. But, so, you know, we really like to hear from some of the kids who may not have been real successful in the traditional schools and why, or some of those kids who are in a comprehensive high school and may not be successful. So that's not an effort to reach out. It's just not meeting with the leadership kids, or the kids that are going to Stanford or Harvard or whatever. Go ahead.
We have a blog, there's a community beyond, through a blog that Lori puts out on a pretty regular basis, and so it's an email blog group that includes realtors and a lot of community people and Rotaries and for a survey kind of thing that might be a really, because these are people who have agreed to be on because they're interested in hearing.
How many people are on that? It's like
1,000? Yeah.
Okay, that.
Is 1,100? I don't know if that's too many.
1,000, we don't want to put too fine a point on it. 1,140 is what.
I think it's 41 now, just. I think, you know, reaching out to those people and sending surveys out and inviting them to a meeting. You're not going to have 1,041.
Yeah. I just got to thinking that, I mean, they're on the list.
Yeah.
They've agreed to keep getting messages from us, so they're somehow they're.
And that may be the way of reaching. Do you have a retired teachers organization in the district? Okay. And so reaching out to that organization of people
Get
who
together?
retired.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're
that'd be
pretty
great.
active, actually.
Oh, that'd be great. How about classified? They have retired classified?
We do.
Do you have a
Yes.
classified? Great.
So there's some dissident parents out there,
Okay.
dissident parent groups, not just parents, but presumably, you know, you already have staff up there and so forth, but these people should be heard. They've got some pretty strongly held opinions.
Are they part of the org group?
Yes.
Friends of TAM.
Okay.
District that we.
I've seen it posted, Friends of Tam Union, FOTU.
Pardon?
Friends of Tam Union, I've seen it, it's FOTU.
Ah. Okay. If, let's say, in the next couple of days, as you think of people that we should meet or groups that we should meet with, either Walt or myself know, and we'll meet with as many people as possible. That's why I really put the 2 weeks down. We'll come out and meet with as many people as possible. We also would have a couple of night meetings. And so, do you have a robocall for the school or something automatic system that we can notify parents that we'll be meeting at the high schools and
An
invite people to come out?
email
Yeah.
is very.
Okay, whichever.
The robocall, I mean, you should talk to staff here about whether the robocall is appropriate. That gets people worried, right, when they get a robocall?
We do attendance in robocall, but we do all-call emails regularly for.
Special meetings, is that?
By the way, Tara is who's going to be working
She's
with
meeting
Steve,
with Walt
so,
and I on Thursday.
which is great because she
Yes.
knows, you know how to get in touch with people.
Yeah. She's probably, you're sitting there thinking, oh, I know. Contact now to reach him. Okay. So, and again, in the next couple of days, if you think of anybody else, reach one of the three of us, and we'll do that. And we'll get started. Again, we have a couple of weeks before we get started, because we really want to have an opportunity to organize this well and let people know that we're meeting. I'll guarantee you there'll be someone, despite how many emails go out, and we often advertise in the paper or get a cooperative newspaper that will put a notice in. There'll be somebody who hadn't heard about it.
She's the Marin IJ.
I know that because I've seen her picture. We'll do the greatest effort possible, and hopefully you folks will too. When you see our list of who we're meeting with, as far as groups, encourage people to go. We ask you not to attend any of these meetings, please. You're all beloved by everyone in your school community, but sometimes when you attend a meeting, people clam up.
That hasn't been our experience.
It's the other part. I wish I would. The experience I had, and this was out in the desert, Palm Spring area, wonderful school, high achieving, great staff, supportive parents, wonderful board. One board member missed the meeting when we were talking like this and didn't get the message, please don't attend these meetings. And I was talking to, at that time, it was elementary school administrators. It was a K-12 district. And they were being pretty open and honest until this particular board member happened to come in. I didn't see him, he was standing behind me, and all of a sudden there was dead silence. I said, come on folks, we were on a roll. And I turned around and he was there. And he was a very lovely guy, and people liked it. But people see you in your role as board members, and not often are always the wonderful human beings you are. So we'd ask you not to attend those meetings, but we will give you every word that they say to us. Okay? Anything else? For good of the cause? Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we will be next recessing into closed session. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the closed session? Like it? So we're going to recess. There will be nothing reportable coming out, so we won't be coming back here. So everybody knows, and our next meeting is next Tuesday, the 10th. It's a regular business meeting. We actually have